Have you ever noticed that the guy who cares the absolute least always seems to catch the biggest fish? It drives you crazy, does it not? You have been out on the water since 4 in the morning. You have tied on 10 different rigs. You have watched every tutorial on the internet. You are focused, you are intense, and your live well is completely empty. Meanwhile, some guy down the bank is drinking coffee, staring at the clouds, and his rod just bent entirely in half. It feels like a bad joke. But what if I told you it is not luck? What if I told you that the very reason you are not catching anything is because you are trying way too hard? Today, we are going to talk about a hard truth that most anglers refuse to accept. Your intense effort is actually scaring the fish away. By the end of this video, you are going to realize why doing absolutely nothing might just be the greatest fishing technique ever invented. So, tell me in the comments right now, are you the guy working up a sweat or the guy taking a nap while the bobber goes down? We have all been brainwashed by the fishing industry. Every single day, we are bombarded with advertisements telling us that we need to do more. Buy this new sonar. Try this complex knot. Master this hyper-aggressive retrieval technique. We are taught that fishing is a hustle. We bring this modern, fast-paced mindset to the edge of the lake, thinking that if we just put in more physical effort, nature will reward us. But nature does not care how hard you work. Fish do not respect your grind. They are simple creatures driven by basic instincts. They want an easy meal, and they want to feel safe. When you bring all your human anxiety, your rapid movements, and your over-engineered strategies to the water, you create an unnatural environment. You become a predator making a massive commotion. For decades, guys have repeated the same mistake, beating the water to a froth, wondering why the fish have lockjaw. Today, we are going to unpack exactly why scaling back your effort is the key to unlocking the best fishing days of your life. Let us start with the ultimate trap of the modern fisherman, the gear trap. Picture this scenario. It is a beautiful, misty morning on the lake. Everything is calm. But here you come, dragging 3 massive tackle boxes, 5 different rods, and enough plastic baits to stock a small store. You sit down, and instead of taking a breath and reading the water, you immediately start digging through your boxes. You tie on a crankbait, throw it twice, and get no bite. Panic sets in. You cut the line, tie on a jig, cast once, and hate how it feels. You spend the next 45 minutes tying knots, cutting lines, and organizing your trays. You are trying so incredibly hard to find the magical lure that you are missing the entire point. While your lure is sitting in your lap, it is not catching fish. The guy next to you threw a simple worm out there 10 minutes ago and just left it alone. His bait is in the strike zone. Yours is in the boat. Stop overcomplicating your morning. Pick a reliable bait, put it in the water, and leave it there. Fish cannot bite what is not wet. Now, let us talk about the constant casting syndrome. You know exactly what I am talking about. You cast out, the bait hits the water, and 3 seconds later you are burning it back to the boat so you can cast again. You want to cover water. You want to be efficient. You think that by putting the lure in 50 different spots in 10 minutes, you are increasing your odds. But think about what you are actually doing to the environment. Splash, splash, splash. You are bombarding the water like an artillery strike. Imagine you are sitting in your living room, trying to eat dinner, and someone keeps throwing softballs against your window. Are you going to eat, or are you going to hide? Fish are exactly the same. When you are hyperactive and casting every 5 seconds, you are sending pressure waves and unnatural noise in every direction. You are literally warning every fish in the area that something is wrong. Slow down. Cast to a good piece of structure and let the bait sit. Give the fish a chance to actually discover it without feeling like they are under attack. Another massive mistake born from trying too hard is ignoring the absolute basics. You watch a tournament on television, and suddenly you think you need a highly complex, multi-tiered rig to catch a basic bass or trout. You spend 20 minutes rigging up drop shots with perfectly measured leaders, glass beads, specialty swivels, and specific weights. You have essentially built a chandelier, and you are throwing it into the water expecting a fish to eat it. Sometimes, all that hardware just looks like junk to a fish. Think back to when you were a kid. What did you use? A hook, a split shot, and a piece of bait. And you caught fish all day long. Why? Because it looked completely natural. It fluttered down slowly, unburdened by heavy metal swivels and thick fluorocarbon leader knots. When you try too hard to engineer the perfect setup, you strip away the natural presentation. If you are struggling to get a bite, cut all that extra garbage off your line. Go back to a simple hook and a simple weight. Let the bait do the work, not the hardware. Let us move on to the spot hopper mentality. This is a classic symptom of an overactive fisherman. You arrive at a beautiful spot. It has deep water, good cover, maybe some fallen timber. It looks perfect. You fish it for exactly 4 minutes. When a fish does not immediately jump onto your hook, you declare the spot dead. You pull up the anchor, start the loud engine, and speed off to the next spot. You do this 10 times in 3 hours. Do you realize how much time you are wasting in transit? You are spending 80% of your morning moving and 20% actually fishing. Not to mention, every time you roar into a new spot, you disturb the water. Sometimes, fish need a little time to turn on. They might be watching your bait, deciding if it is worth the energy. But right when they are about to strike, you rip it away and move on. Have some patience. If a spot looks fishy, trust your instincts. Sit still, be quiet, and work the area thoroughly. Often, the biggest fish bite after you have been sitting quietly in the same spot for a half hour. Then there is the trap of overanalyzing the weather and the conditions. You wake up and immediately check 5 different weather applications. You look at the barometric pressure, the moon phases, the wind direction, and the solunar tables. You convince yourself that because the wind is blowing from the east, the fish will absolutely not bite, or that you must fish a highly specific depth. You get to the lake with a rigid, mathematical plan. But nature does not read weather apps. When you try too hard to follow the data, you ignore what is right in front of you. You might spend 2 hours dragging the bottom in deep water because the app told you to, completely missing the fact that bass are busting bait fish right on the surface near the shore. You are so focused on your phone and your theories that you are blind to the real world. Stop trying to outsmart nature with mathematics. Look at the water. Look for birds. Look for ripples. Let the current conditions tell you what to do, not a forecast you read on your couch. Let us discuss the myth of the perfect lure color. This is where fishermen really lose their minds. You are standing in the tackle shop, agonizing over whether to buy the pumpkin green or the watermelon green plastic worm. You think to yourself, the water is slightly stained today, so I definitely need the one with red flakes, not the gold flakes. You are trying way too hard. Here is a reality check. In 20 feet of water, on a cloudy day, a fish cannot tell the difference between a slightly darker shade of green and brown. They are hunting based on silhouette, vibration, and movement. If you are spending half your day tying on different colors trying to crack some imaginary code, you are wasting your life. A well-presented bait in the wrong color will catch 10 times more fish than a poorly presented bait in the perfect color. Pick a dark color for muddy water and a natural color for clear water. That is all you need to know. Stop agonizing over paint jobs and focus on where you are putting the bait. One of the most common ways people ruin their chances is by trying to force a bite. You get frustrated. You have not had a nibble in an hour, so you decide you are going to make them bite. You start jerking the rod violently. You pop the topwater bait so hard it sounds like a gunshot. You are reeling as fast as humanly possible. You think that aggressive action will trigger an aggressive response, but usually it just terrifies the fish. When a bait is moving erratically and aggressively at top speed, it does not look like a dying, easy meal. It looks like something completely unnatural. In reality, when the bite gets tough, the best reaction is to do less. Try dead sticking. Cast your bait out, let it sink to the bottom, and literally do nothing. Just watch your line. Sometimes, a plastic worm sitting completely motionless on the mud, waving only slightly with the natural current, is exactly what a big, lazy fish wants. Stop trying to force the action. Let the water move the bait for you. We need to talk about the noise factor. When you are trying too hard, you are usually moving too much. You are pacing back and forth on the bank. You are opening and slamming the metal lids of your boat compartments. You are dropping heavy lead weights on the fiberglass deck. You do not realize it, but water is an incredible conductor of sound. Every time you stomp your foot or drop your pliers, that sound wave travels straight down into the water column. The older, wiser, and bigger fish did not get big by being stupid. The second they hear that unnatural clanking, they shut down. They press themselves to the bottom and refuse to eat. The guy catching fish down the bank is sitting perfectly still on a bucket. He has not moved his feet in an hour. He is blending into the environment. If you want to catch more fish, you need to become part of the nature around you. Stop acting like a construction worker on a busy site. Slow your movements. Be stealthy. Silence is truly golden when it comes to fishing. When you are hyper-focused on your own intense strategies, you miss the subtle signs that the lake is trying to show you. You are staring down at your expensive fish finder screen, trying to read every pixel. You are tuning the sensitivity on your electronics. Meanwhile, 20 yards behind you, a massive school of bait fish just erupted on the surface, fleeing from a predator. But you did not see it. You did not hear it. You were too busy looking at a computer screen. You are trying so hard to use technology to find fish that you are ignoring the most obvious natural signs in the world. Look up. Watch for shadows cruising the shallows. Watch for nervous water, where the surface looks just slightly different because fish are moving underneath. Look for turtles and frogs, because where there is life, there is food. Nature gives away its secrets if you are relaxed enough to pay attention. Put the screens away for a moment. Trust your eyes and your ears. The best fish finder you have is sitting right inside your own head. Consider the old-timer's secret. We all know this guy. He is 70 years old. He wears a faded hat. He has one ancient fiberglass rod that looks like it is from 1980. He brings one small coffee can full of dirt and worms. He walks down to the dock, casts his line, and sits down. He does not check his phone. He does not change baits. He just waits. And without fail, he walks away with a stringer full of dinner. Why does his method work while your high-tech, high-effort method fails? Because he understands patience. He knows that his bait smells right, looks right, and is in a decent spot. He knows that eventually a fish will swim by. He is not introducing any stress into the equation. His energy is calm. Compare that to the nervous, anxious energy of a modern angler who is desperately trying to prove his skill. Fish are not looking for a challenge. They are looking for an easy, quiet snack. The old-timer provides exactly that. We could all learn a massive lesson from just putting the rod in a holder and taking a deep breath. Let us look at scent and unnatural smells. When you are working too hard, You are constantly handling your gear. You are rubbing sunscreen on your arms. You are eating a sandwich. You are filling up the boat with gas. Then, you immediately grab your soft plastics and start tying knots. Because you change baits every 5 minutes, you are constantly transferring human oils, chemical sunscreens, and gasoline directly onto your lures. Fish have an incredibly acute sense of smell. A bass can smell a fraction of a drop of substance in a huge volume of water. When they swim up to inspect your perfectly tied rig and it smells like a gas station, they turn away immediately. The guy who casts once and leaves his bait alone does not have this problem. The water washes away his scent over time, and the bait smells like the lake. If you must handle your baits constantly, wash your hands with mud from the bank first. But better yet, stop changing your lure so often. Give the bait time to lose your unnatural stench. Let us talk about leader length and over-engineering your line. I see guys tying main line to a swivel, then 2 feet of heavy wire, then another swivel, then a clasp, and finally the lure. They are terrified of getting bitten off by a pike, or they think the extra swivels will stop line twist. They are trying so hard to prevent every possible negative outcome that they completely destroy the action of the lure. Imagine trying to swim gracefully while wearing a suit of armor. That is what you are doing to your bait. A lure is designed by engineers to flutter, dive, and wiggle in a very specific way. When you add a ton of heavy metal hardware right in front of its nose, it sinks like a rock and moves like a block of wood. It looks completely fake. The best anglers use the lightest, most invisible line they can get away with, and they tie directly to the lure whenever possible. Stop trying to build an indestructible rig. Accept that you might lose a lure occasionally. A natural, simple connection will get you 10 times more bites. Another classic sign of trying too hard is retrieving way too fast. You cast your lure out, and your brain immediately tells you to get it back so you can cast to that other stump over there. You reel steadily and quickly. But think about how a wounded bait fish moves. It does not swim in a straight, fast, continuous line like a torpedo. It twitches. It pauses. It slowly sinks. It struggles. Predators are hardwired to strike when the prey looks vulnerable. When you retrieve your lure at top speed, it looks healthy and difficult to catch. Why would a big, fat, lazy bass waste precious energy chasing down a healthy fish going 30 miles an hour? They will not. They will just watch it go by. You need to incorporate the pause. Cast it out, crank it twice, and stop. Let it sit there for 5 whole seconds. It feels like an eternity when you are hyped up on adrenaline, but that pause is when the strike happens. That pause mimics a dying fish giving up. Slow your hands down. Let the lure hang in the strike zone. Overfeeding the swim is a huge problem, especially for bank fishermen. You buy 2 huge bags of expensive chum or ground bait. You think to yourself, if a little bait brings in a few fish, a massive amount of bait will bring in all the fish in the lake. So you start hurling heavy balls of feed into the water. You throw pound after pound right on top of your spot. You are working up a sweat. But what have you actually accomplished? You just gave the fish a massive, free buffet. They swim in, eat until they are absolutely completely stuffed, and then they lie down on the bottom to digest. They are so full of your free food that they have zero interest in the one piece of food that actually has a hook inside it. You literally fed them so much that they do not need to bite your line. The art of baiting a spot is about teasing them. You want to give them just enough scent and taste to make them aggressively hungry, but not enough to fill their stomachs. Stop throwing away your money and ruining your spot. Less is always more. Let us discuss the obsession with the perfect cast. You see a tiny 6-inch gap between two overhanging tree branches right against the bank. You convince yourself that the biggest fish in the lake is sitting exactly in that one shadow. You take aim, cast hard, and immediately wrap your line 20 feet up in the tree branches. Now you have to pull the line, break it, make a huge snapping noise, and retie your entire rig. You ruined the spot because you tried to be a sniper. Here is the truth. Fish are not bolted to the floor. They have fins. They move. If you cast a bait 2 or 3 feet outside of those branches into safe, open water, a hungry fish will swim out and grab it. You do not need to hit a coffee cup from 40 yards away to be a good fisherman. You just need to be in the general area. Stop trying to execute trick shots that you saw professionals do on the internet. Throw the bait into a safe, manageable zone. A good enough cast that is actually in the water is infinitely better than a perfect cast stuck in a tree. Not resting the water is a massive error driven by greed. Let us say you finally do everything right. You cast out, you wait, and boom, you hook a nice fish. You fight it, land it, and unhook it. Your adrenaline is pumping. You are so excited that you immediately grab your rod, bait it up, and fire it right back into the exact same spot as fast as you can. You think you need to strike while the iron is hot, but you forget what just happened underwater. You just dragged a thrashing, fighting, panicked fish right through the middle of the school. The area is filled with distress signals and stirred-up mud. The remaining fish are on high alert. When you immediately cast a heavy lead weight splashing down right on their heads, they scatter. They need time to calm down and realize the danger has passed. When you catch a good fish, take a break. Sit down. Drink some water. Look at the scenery. Give the spot 10 or 15 minutes to reset completely. When things go quiet again, the fish will return to their feeding positions. Fighting the current instead of using it is another symptom of overthinking. You have a rigid plan in your head. You want your bait to move from left to right because that is where the structure is. But the river current or the wind is blowing hard from right to left. Instead of adapting, you try to force it. You cast upwind, tighten your line, and awkwardly drag the bait against the natural flow of the water. It looks completely unnatural. Bugs, dying bait fish, and worms do not swim aggressively against strong currents. They drift with it. They tumble naturally along the bottom. When a fish sees a piece of food fighting a heavy current with robotic precision, it knows something is fake. The lazy fisherman does not fight nature. He casts upstream and lets the water do all the work. He just watches his line as the bait rolls naturally over the rocks, exactly like real food does. Stop fighting the environment. If the water is moving a certain way, let your bait move that way too. Become one with the drift. Let us talk about oversetting the hook. This happens because you are tense. You have been waiting for a bite for 2 hours, gripping the rod handle so tight your knuckles are white. You are completely on edge. Finally, you feel a tiny tap on the line. Instantly, your brain short-circuits. You swing the rod back with the power of a professional baseball player hitting a home run. You pull so hard you practically break your own back. And what happens? You rip the bait completely out of the mouth of the fish, or you snap your line entirely. You tried way too hard. Unless you are fishing with massive, heavy hooks in thick weeds, you do not need to try to break the jaw of the fish. Modern hooks are incredibly sharp. Often, all it takes is a firm, steady, upward sweep of the rod to set the hook perfectly. The guy who is relaxed, maybe leaning back in his chair, naturally lifts the rod with a smooth motion. He hooks the fish right in the lip every time. Relax your shoulders. Breathe. It is just a fish. not a monster. We have to address the mental burnout of trying too hard. Fishing is supposed to be relaxing. It is supposed to be your escape from work, bills, and stress. But when you treat fishing like a competitive job, you ruin your own mentality. After 3 hours of no bites, intense casting, and constant tackle changes, you get angry. You start rushing your knots. You leave tag ends too long. You cast sloppily and get wind knots. Your frustration translates directly into terrible technique. The fish might actually start biting in the 4th hour, but you are so mentally exhausted and sloppy that you miss every single strike. You have defeated yourself. The lazy fisherman never gets burned out. He is just happy to be outside. Because he is relaxed, his knots are perfect, his casts are smooth, and his mind is clear. When the bite finally happens, he is ready for it. Your mental state dictates your success on the water. If you are angry at the fish, you have already lost the game. Step back and find your peace. Finally, let us talk about the undeniable power of a pause. I guarantee every single person watching this video has experienced this phenomenon. You cast your line out, you are reeling it in, working it perfectly. Suddenly, your phone rings. Or you need to pour a cup of hot coffee, or you stop to light a cigarette. You pinch the rod between your knees and let go of the handle. The bait just sits there dead in the water. And in that exact moment of complete distraction, boom, a massive fish absolutely smashes your lure. It rips the rod right out of your knees. You scramble to grab it, spilling coffee everywhere. Why does this always happen? Because for the first time all morning, you stopped trying. You stopped imparting your jerky, unnatural human rhythm into the lure. You allowed the bait to just be. It hovered naturally, looking completely vulnerable. That accidental pause proved that your intense effort was actually the problem. Learn from that moment. Build that natural, lazy pause into every single cast you make. So, what is the grand takeaway here? It is time to drop the ego and stop treating fishing like a high-intensity workout. The most unexpected turning point for any angler is the moment they realize that doing absolutely nothing is a highly effective, advanced technique. Fishing is not a math test. You cannot force a solution by just grinding harder. It is nature, and nature moves at its own quiet, unhurried pace. When you stop beating the water to a froth, when you stop changing lures every 3 minutes, and when you finally just sit still, you allow the fish to act naturally. Less really is more. You will save money on gear, you will stop going home with a sore shoulder, and most importantly, you will actually start catching the big, smart fish that have been avoiding your noisy, frantic presentations for years. Thank you so much for watching. If this video hit home, please hit that subscribe button and leave a like. Now I want to hear from you. Head down to the comments and tell me, what is the hardest you have ever tried for absolutely zero fish? Let us share the pain, and I will see you on the next one.